live with Laura Jays in London and Kieran Gilbert in Canberra. This is the Brexit Election Special.
Good evening. Welcome to Sky News coverage of the UK election. This is the third time since 2015 the British have gone to the polls. Will there finally be an end to the Brexit drama and some long sought after certainty? Let's go live to London. My colleague Laura Jays standing by. Laura, the latest polls ahead of Election Day suggested, yes, finally, we might see some certainty there in Westminster.
Yes, there might be. The latest YouGov poll shows that they are on track, the Conservatives, to get a majority government. There's a 9-point difference between this poll and the last poll. This YouGov poll puts the Conservatives on 43% of the vote, and that is compared to Labor at 34%. Now, this has narrowed significantly enough in the last week. The last YouGov poll predicted a 68-seat majority for the Tories. Now that has been cut to just 28 seats. The SNP is up, they're on 41, and the Liberal Democrats 15 seats. But this is well within the margin of error, Kieran. Minority government is not out of the question. There could be anywhere from 311 to 367 seats. That is a sliding scale in which YouGov has predicted in the final poll before we actually get the result. The magic number, of course, is 326 out of a possible 650, Kieran. So, look, there is a bit more certainty. The Tories will be happy going into this election day with those kinds of numbers, but we must stress minority government is not out of the question here.
Indeed, and we see you with your gloves on there. It's the middle of winter, the first election held in the UK since 1923, so we don't know what impact that's going to have on the turnout, how many people will vote. Of course, it's voluntary voting in the United Kingdom. Let's have a look at the state of play in the House of Commons as we speak. 298 seats currently that the Tories hold. That's down from the last election. We've seen a number of defection, of course, since that poll in 2017. 318 is what they won. The Labor Party, 243 seats. Again, defections under Corbyn. They had won 262 seats at the last election. Let's look at the pathways to power. Well, basically, Johnson needs 9+ seats on the last result a couple of years ago under Theresa May. So, pretty simple calculation there. If he can break that Labor wall in Northern England, you might see him with an outright majority. The less likely option is that on the right there of screen, 270+ seats for Jeremy Corbyn, and then cobbling together some sort of minority government with the Liberal Democrats and possibly the SNP. But Laura Jays, that's the less likely scenario. But as you pointed out, it's not out of the realms of possibility and not out of the margin of error of the major published polls.
Absolutely, and this latest poll, the YouGov poll, they sample 100,000 people, but it is still so difficult to gauge because it's first past the post voting, and there are different, almost by-elections being held right around the country with different regional issues, and of course, then there's the Brexit question. This is stating the obvious, but for the Conservatives to get a majority, they need to win some Labor seats. In 50 of Labor's most marginal seats, 39 voted in favour of leave in 2016. In 16 of those seats, the margin was more than 60%. So we're talking about North East Wales, the Midlands, the north of England. This is known as the Red Wall. Now, none of these seats were won by Theresa May in 2017, but they came close. So the margins are a lot tighter, so perhaps making it easier for Boris Johnson to win. Let me just take you through some of the seats. The Conservatives need to win seats like Bishop Auckland, Workington, Wrexham, Stockland South, Dudley North near Birmingham, Kensington near London. For Labor, they need to pick up seats from the SNP and the Conservatives. Seats like Southampton, Ayrshire, Glasgow, Hastings and Rye and Chipping Barnet. So it has been a long 5 weeks. Beth Rigby has travelled the length of the countryside with both leaders. She has this report.
In a rush to deliver, first the milk round, then a majority, and then Brexit.
Is that all right there, or is that going to fall off?
Still in front, but the Conservative lead looking precarious. Boris Johnson insists there's still a chance of failure.
There's a real risk again of a hung parliament, which I think would be absolutely disastrous, economically disastrous, politically disastrous. 2 more referendums, 1 on Scotland and 1 on the European Union. We can't afford more drift and dither and delay.
Happy to push his message, but not taking questions on trickier matters.
The father of Jack Merritt spoke out yesterday. How did you feel watching that interview?
Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Accused of politicising the deaths of terror victims, a difficult few days for the Prime Minister as he strains to keep voters focused on Brexit and land a majority in Parliament. All the while, this race is tightening.
Tomorrow, let's go out there and win! Win the Labour and get a Labour government! Thank you!
Middlesbrough South a Labour target, but really Jeremy Corbyn is a leader in full-on defence mode. Little time left to convince Labour Leave voters to stick with him. The NHS, his calling card.
We will protect the NHS. We won't do secret deals with the United States. And you'll have a government you can trust to tell you the truth on Brexit, unlike what we're getting at the present time.
But the SNP has all but wiped out Labour in Scotland, and with it any hope of a Corbyn majority.
My favourite vegetable.
From big part to bit part, the minor parties squeezed in this race, but Jo Swinson still clinging on to hope.
So many people are still making up their mind, and in so many seats it looks like the result will be very marginal indeed.
While this party leaders call him for change.
This election is the other guy's worse than me, and I do actually think we need real fundamental change and political reform. You know, we're living in the 21st century with a 19th century set of institutions. It isn't working anymore.
3.5 years on from that EU referendum, this now the second election called by a Conservative Prime Minister to try and win a working majority in that place behind me and resolve Brexit once and for all. But the longer this campaign has gone on, the more Boris Johnson has been taken off his Brexit message and into areas he doesn't want to talk about as much, things like the NHS and austerity. He's still comfortably in the lead, but the polls are tightening and Number 10 are worried. What once looked like a nailed-on majority is now looking a little less certain. But like it or not, it's come down to a choice between Conservative or Labour. Beth Rigby, Sky News.